ahead of the 75th adoption year of the Constitution of India, India's first Constitution Museum is going to be inaugurated. Well, this big feat has only been established with a vision. And that vision has in fact given birth by the OP Jindal University. And when we talk about this initiative, it focuses largely on the fact that the constitution, which largely is the only book which governs the country and which takes the power of the country at the center stage, it is going to be coming live and giving an understanding to the people of the country. Well, in a conversation with me right now is Professor C. Raj Kumar, the Vice Chancellor of the OP Jindal University. Thank you for speaking to us. At this point of time, this is going to be India's first Constitution Museum. And when we talk about such an idea, what are you expecting for the visitors and for people who are unaware of this concept to expect before they visit this, and what can they take back when they come here?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you. I think this year is a very special year for India as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of India. On 26 November 1949, the Constitution of India was adopted. And quite remarkably, this Constitution has withstood the test of time. We've had amazing 75 years, multiple challenges. I mean, think about it. At that time, we were coming out of centuries of colonialism. We had high levels of poverty and inequalities and very low levels of education and health conditions. We were also suffering from major economic crisis. We also had violence that was obviously met with during the time of partition. It was a very difficult time for the country. And at that time, these 300 individuals coming together at a very difficult time to imagine the future of India and to have written a constitution that will essentially dream India's future is truly remarkable. They were such outstanding people. They had a farsightedness, the vision, and also the sagacity and the magnanimity to be able to develop consensus and charter the constitution. So in some ways, what we are doing through the establishment of India's first Constitution Museum at the campus of OP Jindal Global University in Sonipat is to pay tribute to their contributions, to pay tribute to Indian democracy, to pay tribute to the journey of 75 years, to pay tribute to the freedom struggle, to pay tribute to the sacrifices of the people who lost lives, and to be able to remind ourselves that their struggles, their sacrifices, their contributions should not go in vain, and hence we need to reflect and many ways reimagine and once again reiterate our commitment to the constitutional values. Now, as far as the museum itself is concerned, it's a beautiful space, it's an inspiring space, it's an accessible space, it's a democratic space, it's an inclusive space, meaning that we have taken extraordinary efforts to ensure that the museum is able to connect to people across all levels of education, all levels of pre-existing knowledge, but also younger people for whom we want to promote civic education. The museum is a combination of sculptures, paintings, artworks, technical installations, and of course a lot of digital installations to make sure it's dynamic. Not only we want the museum to be for the present, but also for the future. The museum is actually, we're calling the museum, it's called the Constitution Museum and the Rights and Freedoms Academy, because we are not stopping at 1949 when the Constitution was adopted. We are looking at the last 75-year history, including the evolution of our courts, the evolution of rights and freedoms, the major legislative interventions, the major cases and judgments of the Supreme Court, and how it
right to understand that the need of such a museum or such a space emancipated from the time that you want to reflect upon the evolution of India as a democratic country and as a country which is now overpowering a lot of developing nations.
You're absolutely right. I think the the time for such a museum has come indeed, and not only because of the fact that we have been able to build that culture of democracy 75 years, but we were able to take the lead early on. The framers of the constitution, for example, decided to adopt universal adult franchise, which gave the right to vote without any form of limitations of wealth or education or things like that. They could have easily chosen to do that, but they decided that. And a lot of people in the Western world in particular, but also in other parts of the world, were very skeptical that about that aspect of how Indian framers of the constitution decided to give the right to vote for everybody. In fact, there are lots of debates in the Constituent Assembly itself as to why they chose to do it. And at the end, the Assembly, felt very strongly that you cannot, establish a democracy without making the process of building the democracy itself democratic and inclusive. And the only way by which you can make it democratic and inclusive is to ensure that everybody has a right to vote. Of course, with age restrictions. At that time it was 21 and now it's become 18. The idea is that ordinary Indians, regardless of their, education or wealth or family status or religion or caste or any such distinction, everybody has a stakeholdership in the constitution and in our democracy.
But when we talk about the access, you very much laid emphasis on the access. So how are outsiders also? What about that idea? If there are in fact visitors coming from abroad, there are people who want to learn about how India in fact has evolved as a democratic nation, can also get a sense and can also visit the museum which focuses on India's powers.
Yeah. So absolutely, what we've done is we obviously have no plans to charge anybody any fee for access to museum. It will be something that anybody can visit. Obviously, you register for access to museum through a visitor management system, and you are most welcome to come to the museum. But more importantly, the museum is also reflecting the fact that we want to promote access to the constitutional ideas, because you know very well that it is sometimes constitutions and even similar constitutions end up becoming a focus only for the lawyers and judges. We want to democratize the knowledge and access to constitution and transcend its access from a limited set of individuals. And the only way by which we can do that is by promoting civic education through creating greater awareness of the constitution. And what the museum has done is precisely that. Various installations, puzzles, animations, videos, various forms of informational channels there. All of that is in line with the vision, which is that we want to democratize access to the constitution to a larger number of people.
But very importantly, many would ask, what is the vision that you are trying to in fact build? When you come up with an idea at such a large scale, there is of course an impact that you want to draw at the larger end. So what is the vision, and why do you think it was the need, in fact, when you thought about of as a university, as a private university and institution, what is the need as well?
So the first and foremost is that we believe in education. As a university, our commitment is education. And we believe in education not only for our students, but as education as a framework for the future of our democracy. We simply cannot become a developed country. We cannot fulfill the aspiration of what we call Viksit Bharat without investing in education. And one of the aspects of that education is to be able to invest in developing informed citizenry. Informed citizenry will be able to appreciate policies and regulations better, should be able to contribute to the social, economic, and political development of the country, will be exercising his or her adult franchise and the right to vote responsibly, to will participate in the democratic governance process, and most importantly, will be able to access and assert and even involve themselves in protecting their rights and their freedoms, and hopefully will also ensure that they will fulfill their fundamental duties as enshrined in the Constitution. The effort is to connect the Constitution to the people of India. In fact, the Constitution starts with the words, "We the people of India," which are those very, very inspiring words of the preamble of the Constitution. In a way, that is what we are trying to ensure through this process. The Constitution Museum is an example of connecting the Constitution with the "We the people of India."
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was the Vice Chancellor of the OP Jindal University, Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar. In fact, this is going to be India's next step in making the Constitution a futuristic approach. And this is just the right and the first and the foremost step ahead of the 26th November, when we celebrate the 75th year of the adoption of the Constitution of India. With Avinash Shukla, this is Simran for Newsx.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.